Good morning, everybody. Good morning. What a crazy morning, day, week, month it has been for the market. It's wild. I got some crazy news to share with you with supposedly Trump pausing tariffs for 90 days, but then the White House says that falls. It's crazy. And the market started moving on that news, on that fake news, if you want to call it that. Crazy time, guys. But we're going to talk about it and talk about the charts and what's happening overall, the different signals, different metrics. We won't get emotional, right? Because if you're investing with your emotions, you are doing it wrong, right, guys? We don't panic sell. We don't panic buy. We look at our strategy. We update our thesis accordingly. Great to have everybody. Good morning, Etron. Good morning, Ranter 2887. What's up, and Jack 668. Sorry, Jamie, had some technical difficulties. That's why I'm a bit late. Mark, how are you? Lalo G, welcome in. Lee Miller says, this is your fault. You and the crypto bros. Lee, you don't even know who I voted for. But Lee, it is not crypto bros' fault. It is, if you want to look at the genesis or the root of it, it was Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler. You know that. Let's see. David R. Morla, welcome in. Yeah, patience for sure. Sanford, aloha. Assuming you're tuning in from Hawaii. Great to have you. Jennifer McBee, thank you so much from Crystal Beach, Texas. Thank you for being a channel member, Jennifer. Crypto Raffi, welcome in. Guys, crazy times, isn't it? Crazy times. But it's all good. It's all good. Remember, markets don't go down forever and they don't go up forever. This is all cyclical, regardless of what the catalyst is. Whether it's 2000 .com crash, 2008 financial crisis, March 2020 pandemic, what happens after? Markets continue to go up, right, guys? So don't panic is the key. Don't get emotional about the markets. If you're getting emotional, that means something's wrong. That means you are over leveraged. That means you put money in that you can't afford to lose. And that is a bad setup. I have money in the markets, but it's not all of my money. I have cash, of course, sitting, earning interest. I have cash to pay my bills, my mortgage and other stuff. So I'm not in a point where if the market's down, oh no, I need to panic, right? As though I put too much money in. But, you know, there's a saying, time in the markets is better than trying to time the markets. So we know that all of this follows global liquidity, and on the macro, it just keeps going up, right? Crypto, stocks, and much more. So we'll break down a few things. Guys, on your way in, please hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the 5-star heart button wherever you're watching and listening. We're streaming on multiple platforms. So we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on X, we are on Twitch, we're on kick.com, Facebook, LinkedIn. We are everywhere, guys. Jose from Houston, Texas. Great to have you. Thank you for joining. Stone Rocky says, hey, Tony, I'm in New Jersey, too. Always been curious as to what part of Jersey you're in. So I'm in Cranford. Paul Bolton, welcome in. XRP number 1%er, Monterey, Virginia, welcome in. Digital Revolution from Missouri. The Ozarks, wow, pretty cool. Luke from Ontario. Milo from Puerto Rico, wow. Dennis from the Netherlands, welcome in. Matthew from the Dominican Republic, amazing. We got people from all over the world here, guys. Brooklyn, William Serrano says, Brooklyn in the house. I used to live in Brooklyn. I love Brooklyn. Okay, guys. All right. Where do I start? I laugh because it is just crazy. Not that it's funny. It's just crazy. And sometimes all you have to do is laugh, right? To kind of release the pain a bit. All right. So, guys, Bitcoin still holding strong in comparison to the stock market. My God, you look at the S&P 500. Look at that, right? You look at the NASDAQ, bloody brutal. Now we're seeing a bit of a bounce. I don't know how many of you saw this, but there was some news that apparently Trump was going to put a 90-day pause on the tariffs on all countries except China. The White House came out and said that's fake news. However, some of the good things we are hearing is that the European Union says it's ready to discuss 0 tariffs with the US. So I share this with you because this could be the ramp down of this tariff uncertainty, of this tariff fear, because people are waiting to see what's going to happen. Are these tariffs going to happen, or are they not going to happen? How long will this persist? Because markets hate uncertainty. It's just creating a lot of fear. And you may say, well, why are people so fearful? Well, this is a global initiative, a global event, right? It's not like it's just between the United States and China. If it was just between the United States and China, okay, people wouldn't probably be as worried, because we've seen political talking points and different economic, battles, so to speak, between these world superpowers. But you have the entire world in the mix, and the United States has the world reserve currency. So if the United States is doing this, it puts the entire world into like a bit of chaos, as far as the markets are concerned. So that's why this is causing so much uncertainty, guys. And obviously the implications on inflation and how things will move forward here in the United States. I'm not here to say tariffs are good or tariffs are bad. That's not the point, because that's not the point of this channel. We're looking at the markets overall and how they react to these things. But like I said, though, the 90-day pause news is fake. And the market saw a bit of a bounce, but I don't know how long it's going to hold. There were a lot of people saying today would be a Black Monday, kind of what took place in 1987 for the stock market. But we're seeing a bit of a bounce, which is a good sign. However, as always, we need confirmation. Just because you're seeing a bounce at in the last few hours doesn't mean it's going to end the day this way. It could continue to dump. So a lot of patience is required here, guys. Now, if you look at the VIX, the volatility index, it was spiking like crazy, similar to what we saw in last year's summer in August, where you had the Japanese yen carry trade situation. If you remember that, raise your hands, right? That was a very volatile time. If you look at the Bitcoin chart during that time, it was pretty uncertain. We were below the 200-day moving average, just like we are now. So it doesn't mean the bull market's over. I know there's going to be people screaming, Tony, are you crazy? The bull market's over. Look, no, it hasn't decisively told us that yet. Now, if Bitcoin goes below 70K, I'm going to have to say bull market over, because that would be the collapse of significant levels that are key to the bull market continuing. So I'm waiting to see, right? Because the market could easily move back up, especially if we get news from the Fed that they're cutting rates or that they're doing quantitative easing, some sort of stimulus is coming in. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Also, the conditions right now, it's an extreme fear. Bull markets don't end in extreme fear, guys. We've seen this historically. Obviously, this is a bit man-made because Trump is like, hey, I want to do these tariffs. So it's a bit nuanced, but overall, bull markets do not end in extreme fear. Now, here's a good sign. Jim Cramer warns of a 1987 Black Monday style stock market crash on Monday. So inverse Cramer, the markets are starting to move up a bit. We'll see. He might be right, but let's wait and see. Patience is the key here. One thing we can look at here, though, guys, we are so oversold. This is textbook. You look at the RSI, guys, look at the textbook here, RSI, right? And the different times the RSI was in the oversold zone. This is beyond oversold. So it's almost like the market has to move the other direction, because it based on market principles and theories, there's no way it can keep going down, and nothing keeps going down in a straight line. When I say it can't keep going down, I mean in a straight line. It could go down, a week from now. So don't get me wrong, it could go further down. So in context of what I'm saying here, the RSI, we got to find some sort of bounce here soon, because it's the textbook and how markets move. Now, Kevin Svensson, grain analyst, said Bitcoin is now retesting the 2024 highs. And this is Bitcoin's last chance to maintain its macro uptrend structure. So guys, like I said, we're knocking at the door of a bear market, but we haven't walked through that door yet. Hope you understand my analogy, because there are people screaming bear markets here and there's a lot of people shorting. So you got to filter out the results. I am not definitively saying we are in a bear market. I'm not definitively saying the bull market will continue. I do think there's a higher probability of the bull market continuing, but we're at a critical point, an inflection point, where we need to see a bounce, and Bitcoin needs to get back above that 200-day moving average. And similar to what we did last summer, we went below, we chopped below that thing for a good amount of time, a couple of months, then broke out, then massive parabolic run up in Q4. It's funny how people forget this moment. Very similar behavior happening on the charts. Forget about the context and the narrative, right? Tariffs, Japanese yen carry trade, whatever. Look at what the chart is doing. So, we need to get above that, guys, because nothing good happens below the 200-day moving average. Just simple pattern recognition will tell you that. You don't have to be a Wall Street analyst to see that. When we're strongly above the 200-day moving average, it's bull market. When we are, definitively below that 200-day moving average, bear market. So Bitcoin needs to get the hell out of here. Even the stock market, right? Because it's all correlated to global liquidity. And this is why I'm saying the stock market is performing way worse than Bitcoin right now. So it has some ways to go to get out of here. Dow Jones looking nasty on the chart there, guys. S&P, not great. So we got to get out of here. It's crazy because this event is like a man-made black swan event, if you want to call it that. Really crazy stuff. And then you look at some of these altcoins, guys. Look at XRP. It is below. It went below the 200-day moving average. So same thing like Bitcoin. Get the hell out of there. If you want this bull market to continue, it's got to get out of there. Now, it could chop below there for a while, right? Just like we saw, like I keep bringing up last summer with Bitcoin. It could chop around there for a while and then break out. But this is where we got to watch the charts closely. Now, this is the micro. In the macro, when in doubt, zoom out. What have we learned, guys? Markets move in cycles. So there's no reason to panic unless you have an emergency and you need to liquidate your assets. Then I understand if you have to do that, right? You have a life emergency or whatever. But if you are in it for the macro, markets move in cycles. They will keep moving higher. I mean, once again, 2008 crash, 2001 .com bubble pop, right? It all moves in cycles, guys. So that's one thing I've learned. And you notice, you guys can go pull this chart up on TradingView. It's free. Go look at it, guys. 2008, whatever it is, whatever the narrative, whatever the catalyst was, doesn't matter. Markets keep going higher because they have to keep printing to have the governments function. What is Congress now asking for? $6 trillion? So they got to raise the debt ceiling and print six trillion. You know what's going to happen. The markets are going to keep going up, guys. So don't listen to the doomers and the people who are saying the sky is falling, the end of the world. They do that to shake you out, and many of them are shorting. They don't want you to buy, they want you to sell, which helps to fulfill their shorts. But if you understand how the economy and the markets work and how global liquidity, which is what I've been sharing with you guys ad nauseum, we're going to bounce, and we're going to go to higher highs. But the key is, do you have the emotional control and do you have the patience? The patience part is hard for a lot of people because we all have financial goals. We all have life goals, and we want the money as soon as possible, right? Me too. I get it. But you have to be able to control your emotions and just look at the market. Zoom out. And these things don't even, once we're past them, they often forget. They forget the pain once the market starts ripping. But guys, we're going to get back to moving. And obviously this tariff stuff, we need to figure out something. But one thing that's for certain, guys, when we've seen these big crashes, like I've been showing on the charts, we've seen stimulus. We've seen some sort of quantitative easing. So expect the Fed to potentially cut rates and start printing. Even China's stock market is taking a massive hit. It's the worst day. It's a single day crash since 2008 for them. So they're going to, do some stimulus, I believe. Now, what's interesting, today, the Fed is having a closed door meeting. Now, some people are saying this was an emergency meeting. It wasn't. It was scheduled since last week. However, you can imagine they're going to discuss possibly big rate cuts, possibly quantitative easing as well. We'll have to wait and see. And Trump is putting a lot of pressure on the Fed, saying Jerome Powell needs to cut rates. So, guys, I hope this doesn't last for another 2 months. I hope this thing wraps up in a couple of weeks. That, the signs we're seeing with the European Union saying they're ready to discuss 0 to 0 tariffs. Some of these things come to some sort of resolution. The Fed cuts rates, and then markets can start to normalize and start to move. Now, if we look at some on-chain metrics, right? Specific, this is not the macro, of course, it's specific to crypto. Guys, Bitcoin whales are not dumping. If you recall, I was worried come February because we started seeing a downtrend. If you can see my mouse where it's moving right here. And I said, guys, we got to watch this closely, because if whales are dumping, the guys who move the markets now, I'm concerned. That means it's over. But then we saw, as the market started getting lower and lower, whales scooped up a ton of Bitcoin. This is wallets with 10 or more Bitcoin. And overall, the trend, there's peaks and valleys in the micro, but the overall trend is not down, even though the price has been going down. So they have been accumulating, and that's a very good sign, and they're still holding strong. Now, this is where we have to look at this data on a weekly basis, because come next week, what if they start dumping, right? They recognize, shit, this thing is over. But it doesn't look that way. It's not like what we saw in last year, March and April and May of 2024. Buy the rumor, sell the news. They dumped significantly because Bitcoin hit a massive local top, super overbought, and they dumped. And since then, they've been accumulating. They have not dumped significantly, even though there's been some deceleration, if you want to call it that, of their accumulation in February, but then it picked up back in March. Good signs. So I'll keep updating you guys every week in my newsletter, as well as in the live streams that we do on Mondays. Now, another sign of, or the correlation with that data, is that supply and exchanges for Bitcoin has not been going up. Still low. Good sign. So the whales, once again, the guys who move the markets now, right? Still holding strong. Other signals that I've been sharing with you all, like the Bitcoin Pi Cycle Top Indicator, it's actually starting to deviate away. The moving averages are deviating from each other. So they haven't even touched, similar to what we've seen in the past cycles. So with this macro uncertainty for the stock market and everything, are we about to see an extended cycle? It's possible. I'm not saying that's a definite or a certainty, but with this deviation, it's like, wait, okay, maybe we got some time to go for this thing to get closer, guys. And this is something to keep in mind. It appears that way right now, based on the data, that this thing is going to maybe push into 2026 because of all these macro headwinds, guys. Guys, before we go further, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, hit the heart button, the like button. Check out our sponsors, Uphold, Trezor, great hardware wallet for self-custody, Proppy, VeChain. Links will be in the description. Check out our free email newsletter, 100% free on Substack. Be sure to sign up. Check out my book on Amazon, available in paperback and digital, and my new course at mycryptocourse.com. Expand your crypto knowledge. Learn about every aspect of the crypto market. So, guys, Saylor, look at this, halting his Bitcoin buying, obviously through MicroStrategy. And it makes sense. Why try to catch a falling knife? Things are in a free fall right now. And apparently, they're disclosing a $5.91 billion unrealized loss in Q1, according to SEC filings. This is why I've been saying for a long time, I am a bit concerned about Saylor. Too much leverage. Not that if he had took Strategy's cash reserves and bought some Bitcoin. That's fine because he didn't use leverage. It was the cash they had on their balance sheet. But when you raise billions of dollars in debt to buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is still a very volatile asset, and obviously you have black swan events, kind of like what we're seeing now. It's a pseudo black swan event because it's man-made. We had some idea this may happen from the Trump administration, but maybe not to this level. But even Saylor's like, I'm not buying. So I don't blame him because it is crazy upon crazy out there, and things are very uncertain, and we just don't know what's going to happen next. And we're hoping that Trump and these folks can get this thing resolved soon because it's nasty. But this is a sign of how bad it is, right? That Saylor is like, I'm not buying any Bitcoin this week. And that they're taking a loss. So this quarter, at least on paper, not unrealized. Now look at this news, guys. CZ, Changpeng Zhao, a founder of Binance, he has been appointed as Pakistan's advisor on crypto. If you recall, he just did this with Kyrgyzstan. So shout out to CZ, man. He's going around helping boost the adoption of crypto. And guys, I hope you see what's happening here. Some of the countries which you think may not even care about crypto or focused on it are getting fully involved because this is the future. The government, the markets, the economy running on blockchain, they recognize where we're headed. I think all of these things, honestly, are discussed at Davos every year where all the country leaders come in and they have their private conversations. You have all the big financial institutions, the bank CEOs come in. And not that there's like some massive coordinated effort, but essentially they talk about what is the future, what does the future of the economy look like, whether it be blockchain, crypto, AI, and much more. So guys, I hope you recognize what's happening here. Even some of the smallest countries you think wouldn't care about these things because they have other priorities or they're at different economic levels. They recognize this is the future. So this is where you, once again, when in doubt, zoom out. Have the macro view. Don't panic. Don't go panic selling. Oh my God, the market's that. These things happen, whether it be March 2020, 2008, 2001, regardless of what the catalyst is, Trump or no Trump, right? Whatever the catalyst is, these things happen. You've seen it before. So you have to have in your back of your mind, these markets move in cycles, regardless of what the catalyst is. Now look at this. Ripple released some data here about tokenization, saying by 2033, a $0.6 trillion to $18.9 trillion shift is coming as tokenization reshapes global finance. This is what I'm talking about. Governments, economies, and markets running on the blockchain. They're going to tokenize stocks, bonds, and all that stuff. So huge things on the horizon. We're going to play the cycles and take profits, obviously, right? Sell the bull markets, buy the bear markets, and rinse and repeat until eventually the volatility won't be there. The upside won't be there because the market will be so large. There'll be a lot of players, a lot of liquidity coming in. So guys, it's bloody out there. My recommendation, and I tweeted out about it today, don't look at your portfolio. Do not look at your portfolio. It will help. It will help you maintain your mental health. Two, don't watch mainstream news all day. They're gonna fear monger because that's the game. They sell fear. The world's collapsing. Oh my God, it's Armageddon. Oh my God, our lives are over. And don't get me wrong, politics is important. You need to know what's happening in the world, but don't become like this. Don't drink from the fire hose, as they would say, right? Take whatever you need to take and then don't listen to it for the rest of the day. It's important to do that. Go outside and touch grass. Go to the gym. After this, I'm going to the gym, by the way, guys. It's important. I'm going to go to the gym, going to go work out. I know some of you are probably at work or whatever it may be. Everybody has a different schedule. Go to gym after work, whatever it may be. It's important to do these things when you have these type of situations because they are stressful. And if you you look at it 24/7, you're going to drive yourself nuts. So like I said, when in doubt, zoom out and make sure you take care of your mental health. These are all important things for navigating the market, guys. Hit the thumbs up, guys. Hit the thumbs up for protecting your mental health in these markets. Hit the heart button, the subscribe button, wherever you're watching and listening. But it's a patience game, guys. And like I said, Bitcoin at an inflection point. We need to get the hell out of this hole. Get back above the 200-day moving average. Same thing for XRP. And a lot of altcoins are suffering. And this is why I've been telling you guys nonstop, the market moves of Bitcoin, and altcoins can't do much without Bitcoin leading the charge. I don't make the rules. That's just how it is. It's not an emotional thing. It's just a factual observation. It's an objective observation, not subjective. You have like XRP maximalists who will say all kinds of nonsense, but at the end of the day, Bitcoin moves the show, right? The party follows Bitcoin. So we need some sort of catalyst. We'll see if Jerome Powell and the Fed decide to cut some rates, and in addition, maybe print some money. I think when you have this type of macro uncertainty and pull back in the markets, like we've seen historically, they're going to have to go to that playbook. I'm not saying it's the right thing, as far as money and fiat currency and how you handle it. I'm saying it's the right thing for the markets, not that it's the right thing for how our future is and the dollar and much more, because I don't think they have any other choice. What other choice do they have? This is the fiat system until they change it. So the playbook they've used, of course, we saw it in March 2020. We saw it in 2008, right? Print, cut rates and print. And they're going to have to do that. So pretty painful. All right. So we can answer some questions, guys. Ipatok says, that's what I want to know. Will Jerome cut rates? I think Ipatok, there's a high probability they will, because the markets are in free fall. There's a lot of uncertainty. And, I tweeted out about this, I think last week. Are we being played by Trump and Jerome Powell? Right? So that's the thing. Is this just all one big thing to deflate the asset bubble, to price in a crash that was coming in 2026, because the markets will be so overheated and so inflated that this is getting ahead of that crash? People may say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. I'm just looking at the patterns, the charts. I'm looking at what I've seen historically with government narratives. And it could possibly be that, or it may not, right? Michael says, will go away in May and still be in play? That's a great question, Michael. I'll give you an example of what we saw in Q4. Look how painful it was in August, all the way up to even the middle of October, right? 2.5 months. And then October itself wasn't that great, but then came November, and the majority of the gains, guys, was made in just 1 month. Let's see. It started November 5th, wrapped up just over 1 month. So let's call it 40 days. 40 days. Bitcoin made that move. So we are in April. Michael, to answer your question, if by the end of April, let's say April 20th or so, right? A lot of this stuff is wrapped up or somewhat resolving, the tariff stuff. The Fed says we're cutting by 75 basis points or 50, whatever, right? There's some news about liquidity injection, stimulus. 40 days could take us to the end of May, and your gains are there. And then people, I guarantee you, people will forget about this. Just human behavior. So it's TBD, and it's still possible, Michael, just because when you look at how fast the market moves, right? If I give an example of January 2024, and then let's see, and then a cool down in February, and then into the 13th of March. So that was, let's see, this started primarily around, actually, no, it started in February, never mind. So yeah, similar thing, about 40 days, 40 to 45 days. So you see these moves happen relatively fast, and the corrections take longer. So the possibility is there that we could still have the sell in May go away play. Digital Revolution says it's all planned out, XRP. And look, I think some of it is planned. I don't know, Digital Revolution, I'll share this. Notice how regulations and all these things are coming now that BlackRock, Fidelity, Franklin Templeton, and all the big boys have taken their position. Notice how it's all playing out favorably now that Wall Street has already taken their position. So you do have a point, so there it is. My channel says nobody buying any more American stuff all around the world. This tariffs move is so dumb. Yeah, well, here's the thing, my channel, and I spoke about this in an interview on Cheddar News the other day. I'm not sure what the goal is here. Is it simply to bring people to the negotiation table, right? To get them to negotiate on trade deficits, not necessarily tariffs. Trade deficits and tariffs are different things. So like the reciprocal tariff calculation was all bullshit. And that's not some anti-Trump statement. People get very political. It just, I saw it. I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. They were not calculating. It wasn't like, oh, this country is charging us 20%, and then we're also going to charge 20%. The calculations were off, and we can be intellectually honest here, right? And call it for what it is. XRP Magnificent says we live in a simulation. I know it feels that way sometimes, man. But the great thing to cut through the noise is what I've been telling you guys. Follow global liquidity and understand markets move in cycles. It's all cyclical, once again, regardless of what the catalyst is. So once you understand that, you ride the waves. This is what the Wall Street guys do. Do they care about politics? Of course. Do they care about politics as much as the mainstream people on Main Street? No. There are people who are very politically charged, and everything's about politics, and everything's about this president, that president. They worship politicians. And the guys I've spoken to on Wall Street, guys, they don't worship politicians. What they do is mostly watch what the Fed is doing, because that tells them what's happening in the cycles, the boom and bust, the money cycle, the business cycle, and they play accordingly. Do they vote? Of course they vote, right? But the balance comes in. Politics is important. You vote, but don't worship politicians. Politicians are not going to save you. No one's coming to save you. You have to educate yourself and learn what the hell is happening in the markets. Jimmy says, if this situation is winning, I would rather lose. Well, Jimmy, like I said, when in doubt, zoom out, right? Regardless of the catalyst. And I'm being honest with you guys. Like, I'm not emotional about this, and I'm not political about it. Is it annoying? Do I think Trump did the right thing with how they executed this tariff stuff? No, I don't agree with it. That doesn't mean I'm anti-Trump. Again, I'm an independent. So I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. And I hope I encourage some of you to get to that point. Don't get too distracted by, I hate Democrats or I hate Republicans. That's how you miss what the hell's happening. And that's how Wall Street always wins, because they're not caught up in that. So guys, patience. A lot of comments saying we are in a simulation. Got enough pain with inflation. This is enough. So you have to understand this, right? Put aside the political narratives. What took place in March 2020 or the year of 2020? They printed the most money ever in the United States. And not only them, different central banks and governments around the world. If you do stuff like that, what do you think is going to happen? Inflation, record inflation. So that problem is going to persist for years. So, the mudslinging by both parties, I think, is a distraction so the common man doesn't understand what took place. Honestly. Jimmy says, true, I'm buying the uptone. Yeah, guys, I'm going to be looking to buy. I have some dry powder, not a lot, to be honest. But I'm waiting to see maybe some sort of some sort of tariff revolution, because I don't want to catch a falling knife, is what I'm saying. No one can call the exact bottom. I'm not trying to get the exact bottom, but I'm just trying to see, is there going to be further downside? Because there's some uncertainty. But if I'm buying, for example, and it's below the 200-day moving average, I'm fine with that, honestly. Because if we get back above, it's going to be nice profits, right? So guys, I know it's a lot of uncertainty. It's painful, but we got to hang tight and let history, not your emotions, let history be the teacher here. When in doubt, zoom out. Markets move in cycles. Have we seen fearful things in bear markets? Yeah. Just look at what happened in March 2020. We were in the midst of in a bull market, excuse me. Can fearful things happen in a bull market? Yes. And in March 2020, we experienced that because the bull market had started. And they printed their way out of it. So I think something similar might happen here. Yep, for sure. Yeah, free and fighting. I don't disagree with you on that. I think, though, the execution, like I wish, for example, Trump was more strategic about it, where he didn't come out with this blanket stuff and throw the whole world into some sort of like chaos. You know what I mean? If it was more strategic, where he was like, for example, meeting with different governments in more of a private setting and negotiating that way, it would have been better. Because obviously when you put it out there like this, the markets are going to tumble. It puts a lot of fear on the market. So my problem is more of the execution. Yeah, no, Michael, absolutely. I agree with you. Again, my gripe is with the execution, if you know what I mean, right? And being intellectually honest, the chart they put out was bullshit, right? Let's be honest. But I agree with the thesis of what you're saying, that we have to bring back manufacturing. I live in the United States, so I want to see manufacturing back here. The execution is bad. Or so far. I'm not saying it's going to be bad forever, just so far. John Connor says, this is the Black Swan event. Yeah, this is, if you guys recall, on different times, I often say, look, here's the thesis, but you never know. A Black Swan event can happen, right? How many times have I said that? Now, this is kind of a pseudo Black Swan event because it wasn't totally unforeseen, if you know what I mean. And like I said, even if Trump went about it a more strategic way or tactical way, where you were meeting with governments in private first to try to negotiate it in a different way versus this all-out fear in the markets, I think that would have been better. I think that maybe is the Black Swan, right? Because he campaigned on tariffs. BTC bottom should come in at 75 to 67K, in my opinion. Yeah, well, let's hope it's 75K and not below 75 or 70. That's dangerous ground. Guys, hit that thumbs up button, hit the heart button, hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching and listening. If we look at Bitcoin dominance, guys, it continues to go up. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. This is another sign bull market's still intact, right? What have we seen when this thing is going up and then it starts to correct? We're entering into what do you call it? It's like the liquidity or Bitcoin's dominance is falling because it's hitting new all-time highs and it's starting to decline. Same thing with altcoin. Then alt season starts, right? So we're not seeing that big drop off yet. So this still is a positive signal, right? In addition to the whales still accumulating and still holding. Other signals like the pi cycle top indicator not flashing, in fact, deviating right now. So this is where we could see an extended cycle. And this black swan catalyst, if you want to call it that, with the tariffs is the cause. No, when is Jerome Powell's decision? We have no idea, John. Hopefully this week we hear something. Crypto Chevy says, new all-time high, not till registration for stablecoin, your opinion? You know, that's possible because Crypto Chevy, Trump said he wanted the market structure and stablecoin bills on his desk before the August recess. So if we're talking about the extended cycle now into 2026, we start to see a recovery and then new all-time highs come, I don't know, Q3, Q4, right? And this spills over into Q1. Hard to tell. This is where we're going to have to watch it closely and pay attention. Mode Master says, epic with a live stream, watching your show every day. Thank you for putting... Yeah, appreciate that, Mode Master. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the support. Wall Street is very angry now. Yeah, guys, I saw Bill Ackman come out. The knives are coming out. They're calling out Howard Lutnick. So this is what has me thinking Jerome Powell is going to have to cut rates soon and possibly do some sort of money printing. Oh yeah, TikTok's going to survive. This is all a game to see who can purchase it, by the way, and have it under US control. TikTok's going to survive. Oker says, I don't think anyone expected this all season, only on insiders that started meme season. Well, here's the thing. It depends on your point of view, your perspective. Do you believe that we still have more upside in this market or not? I believe there's a higher probability we have more upside, but I could be wrong, right, guys? I'm talking probabilities here because I don't have a crystal ball. I'm invested. I'm still holding on. I have not panic sold. I have not dumped anything. And I will be looking to buy some of these dips. But I'm still watching closely what's happening on the macro with the tariffs because I don't want to catch a falling knife, if you know what I mean. So I believe there's still upside. I believe the true alt season, if you want to call it that, has not really started. Although you've seen some alts run up like XRP, incredible strength, right? But as I mentioned earlier, it's dipping below that 200-day moving average. That's very concerning. So we hope that it can get out of here. Same thing with Bitcoin, because nothing good happens below that 200-day moving average. And it's not a sign that the bull market's over if it goes below there, because look at just what happened last year in the summer. It went below there and hung out, but then worked its way out. So we want to see higher highs and higher lows to get the hell out of here so we can continue. Oker says, but what if it's like the 1930s in the next 10 years and it's only... That's not going to happen, Oker. So here's why. One, it's not the 1930s. The Fed and the Treasury and all these folks have more control over the money now. We have a almost digital system, right? It's all numbers and digits and computers now. So by no means is it like that. And if you wanted to say that, 2008 was the moment. 2008, I believe, is when the real economy died. And they went to this economic stimulus model of printing. And we saw it in March 2020. So what's happening, unlike the 1930s or 1920s, back then, not everyone's retirement and wealth was tied up in the stock market like it is now. It is on steroids now. So majority of people who are going to retire, boomers and so forth, a lot of their net worth is in the stock market and equities. Guess what? If they let that go down too much, I've tweeted about it, and it's not hyperbole. If they can't let the collateral, the assets go to zero, there's so much leverage built on these collaterals, and it's powering a lot of people's retirements and savings, that if they let that thing go down, it will be the collapse of civilization. You don't believe me? watch people's net worth go to zero and they lose confidence in the currency. What do you think is going to happen? We'll be fighting each other in the streets for bread. I'm not kidding. Study history. And if people lose faith in the money and the economic system, doesn't matter if you're in the United States and the great history and all that. And I live in the United States. I love the United States. But you know human behavior, you know human psychology. If it gets to that point, look at, I mean, look at riots and things that have happened just even in 2020 and different places. It just takes a spark, right? That they recognize, hey, I don't know, like what's happening. I don't trust anything. This is all coming to the end. Let's just go out in the street and destroy stuff. They'll do it. So at some point, the market, the people can only take so much. So the governments know that, and people will storm DC if it was to get to that point, right? Because they'll be like, the governments let this happen to us. I'm not saying I want that. Hell no, I don't want that, right? I'm just being realistic. And I've studied history, human behavior, human psychology. And when you understand these things, you see it play out in the markets. You see it play out in the charts. So they're not going to let the assets go to zero. Yeah, any Rage Against the Machine song. Yeah, for sure. Michael says, as much as I want a vacation this summer, I would settle for a very festive Christmas. Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. Even if we don't get the sell in May go away, I'm okay with that. If we get a really good Q4 and incredible gains, because that would be pretty sweet. And this is where, guys, look, I kid you not. I was literally talking to my wife last week about once we take some profits from the market, you know, with crypto, I want to buy like a car I've wanted for a long time. After, now don't get me wrong, after I've put money in my retirement and we hit our retirement goal, after I paid off debt, do some small lifestyle updates with the house and things like that, I want to get a certain hobby car. And I have those ambitions and those you know, desires and things like that. So guys, I would love for Bitcoin to go to 150K next month and start taking profits, and XRP to go to $6 or $8, whatever, or Ethereum to get to 8K and start taking profits. Guys, I'm with you here. But at the same time, I balance that out with understanding time in the markets is better than trying to time the markets. It doesn't always go according to our plan, but the macro thesis, when in doubt, zoom out. Markets move in cycles. They always go back up as long as there's civilization and people need product, goods, and services. And the governments keep debasing the fiat currency, which they have to, right? We just talked about the debt ceiling being raised here in the United States. Congress needs $6 trillion, right? They're going to print it. Where are they going to get it from? It's not going to fall out of the sky. There's not enough tax money to get that money, right? So they're going to print it, and asset prices are going to rise with it. Once you understand that foundational concept, guys, it makes navigating the market easier. Now, I didn't always understand that. I was listening to Jim Cramer and Fast Money and CNBC Financial Markets until I finally started to understand the markets, what the hell is happening behind the scenes, reading the charts. And I'm not a Wall Street analyst. I can't sit in a room with those guys, but I at least know the foundational principles, and that helps me not to panic and be emotional about the markets and to buy the blood on the streets. I've often told you guys, I was buying when FTX was collapsing, December 2022, and my Bitcoin holdings and some of my other altcoins are up significantly. Despite this crash, they're up from this bottom. Why? Because I bought the bloody bear market. That's the point you have to get to. And this is my third bull market cycle. I made some decent returns in 2020 and 2021 because I bought 2018 and 2019. When I got in 2016, I didn't know what I was doing, so I didn't make as much money in 2017 when we had the bull market peak. But staying on the journey, educating myself, learning the cycles, learning what is driving asset prices. That is the key, and that's global liquidity. And as they keep debasing it, fiat currency globally, asset prices will keep rising. Will it be a roller coaster? Of course. Just look at what we're experiencing here now. But markets don't go up in a straight line, and they don't go down in a straight line. So it's all higher highs and higher lows. Just look at the S&P 500, right? Let's say this was a stock trading channel. I will tell you the same freaking thing. Look at that. Simple pattern recognition will tell you what the hell's going on here. Higher highs and higher lows despite the crashes. Whether it's March 2020, 2008, 2001, 1987, higher highs, higher lows. If you take away anything from this live stream, please understand that. Because once again, whether you're investing in real estate, stocks, precious metals, it's all correlated to the global liquidity. Higher highs, higher lows. Peaks and valleys along the way, yes. Crashes along the way, yes. But look at this. If you bought gold when it bottomed in 2022, just like risk assets, like a Bitcoin and a crypto and the stock market, you're up significantly despite the pullback. So hope that's helpful, guys. Trump or no Trump, Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter. This is why I was saying earlier, doesn't matter what the catalyst is. I'm not here to be political. I'm not here to be emotional. Just to understand the market principles, guys. And zoom out. It's so important. Mode Master says, I am almost debt free now. Next up, goodbye fiat mines. The dream is full-time crypto. I'm a founder of a blockchain project called Squeak and could easily work 60 hours a week if I needed to. That's awesome, Mode Master. Sam, great point. If you're a student of history, you're absolutely spot on. Where you said, like, in the old days, similar political actions resulted in actual world wars. This feels like the same, but in a different way. Sam, one of the things I've been talking about on the podcast and also asking certain government officials, I asked Congressman Brian Stile about this, and even Bo Hines. That interview should be published this week. I said, are we at another Bretton Woods moment? Because after World War II, what did they do? They established U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, backed it with gold. It feels like something similar is happening here with Bitcoin and crypto, with the Bitcoin reserve being set up and change in trade and things like that. It feels like that moment. But to your point, there wasn't a world war to do that. Back in the day, when the world was less digital and it was more about, the land grab and how, if you control certain regions, then you get to inject your currency. It was about the wars. That was the way to solve it, unfortunately. Now, it could be trade, tariffs, things like that, currency manipulation, right? It's so funny. Now, I would prefer this than a war, obviously, because war is a horrible thing, right? Needless to say. So, yeah. Peter says, no, not the. Yeah, Peter, I think this is all probability. Is there a higher probability of no war happening between China and Taiwan? Yes. Versus a probability of it happening? I would say no war, because a very different world in the way things are moving. I think the wars are going to play out with currency, tariffs, and digital. We've already seen that with hacks and all kinds of things happening. I think it's going to be a different type of thing. Let's go back to the gold standard. It feels like they're trying to do something like that, and it will include crypto in some way, in my opinion. GT says, I will be mad if my portfolio goes back to only its all-time high in Q4. This is, in my eyes, the unscrew this manipulation. Yeah, but at the end of the day, though, I hope, GT, I agree with you. Like, I would be upset as well. But, when in doubt, zoom out, right? Just keep playing the market, guys. It will make higher highs. History has shown us that, and they have no new solutions. It has to be money printing. So they're going to go back to that. And whether it's the stock market, gold, real estate, crypto, higher highs, higher lows, guys. The new Treasury Secretary, speaking of Scott Bessent, said he expects a world realignment for currency within the next 4 years. Yeah, I mean, it seems like something like that's happening, right? Another Bretton Woods. Guys, go study history. Go read up on Bretton Woods and all the stuff they've done with currency in the past. It just feels like it's in the air, and some of the narratives are being planted, right? It seems like it's here. Yep, for sure. Yeah, guys. So patience here. As mentioned, hopefully there's some negotiations happening with the tariffs. Like, we got news that European Union said it's ready to discuss a 0 tariffs. So I think the markets just need to see a signal that there's cooperation and discussions, and that things are headed in the right direction of a resolution, and they can start normalizing. And then I think Jerome Powell's hand is going to be forced there. He's going to have to cut. How much he cuts, I don't know. 50 basis points, 75 basis points. And then stimulus is going to come. Congress is already raising the debt ceiling. Where are they going to get the money from? They're going to have to print. So something is around the corner with that. The good sign, guys, the whales, the guys who move the markets, still holding. That's a good sign. So we really got to be patient here. It's crazy out there. A good sign too, the VIX is printing a red candle. So the volatility index, could the volatility be on the downside? Possible, right? We'll have to wait and see. Dollar, we know, has been on a downtrend, even though it's finding some short-term strength. It's been on the downtrend trend, excuse me. So this should be good for risk assets, as soon as there's some sort of resolution on the tariff front. Yeah, absolutely. Seconds of meditation. History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. Crazy times, right, guys? As always, though, find a balance. I see sometimes people get very political. It becomes their whole world. They get so caught up. They worship politicians as though politicians are coming to save them. No president's going to save you. Learn to navigate the markets. And yes, you pay attention to what the president's saying. You watch what he or she is doing. You watch what the Fed is doing, and you take your bets. Because at the end of the day, you know what I mean? You gotta use the information to your advantage, but don't get too politically emotional and charged up. I see a lot of people do that, and they become sycophants. I don't worship any politician, Democrat, Republican, whoever. I'm an independent. I vote for who I think will do the best job. And the moment you start worshiping a president, that's when they something bad sometimes happens, right? It's just like laws of nature. You're not meant to worship men like that. And unfortunately, I think the era we live in of populism is as a result of what happened in 2008. People have lost confidence in the government and the money. It's like this underlying theme or tone, and they're looking for someone to save them. But there's only so much these folks can do, because the system is set up in a way where they have to debase the currency. And unfortunately, humans are going to be humans. And if you look at what caused 2008, with the rating agencies and the bad mortgages and all the leverage, the government folks, some of them were bribed and failed and all these things. So these things happen in different cycles with different assets in different ways. So what you can do is learn the markets, guys. Learn to navigate, understand what they're doing with the money, because that's what drives the asset prices. I know I keep repeating that because it was such an eye-opener for me in navigating the markets. That's why when this is happening, it sucks, but I'm not panicking because I know they can't let the asset go to zero. They can't let the collateral go to zero, guys. And that's the important things. This is why sometimes you have chart people, saying doom and gloom and all this. And I'm like, no. Markets will correct. They will go down. But the governments can't. They cannot let the asset values go to zero, because that will be the collapse of the economy and civilization. XRP Plumbing, spot on. Follow the money, not politicians. Too big to fail. Yep. Well, John, look, some of what you're saying may be right, but don't get too caught up in that where you're blinded as to what you need to do to help you and your household. So that's why I'm an independent. I don't follow any politician that way. I don't worship any politician. You know what I mean? Do I vote? Of course. Do I care about certain policies? Of course. So I'm not saying ignore it. I'm just saying have a balance and use the information to your advantage. Because at the end of the day, the people closest to the money printer, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, whoever's in office, they often do, things that they shouldn't do. And it's like the power corrupts, right? Appreciate that, Michael. Thank you. Yeah. Horse politics. Pick your winner for sure. So guys, hopefully, I for those of you joining a bit late, I don't know if you, there was a rumor spreading on Twitter or X that Trump was considering a 90-day pause in tariffs for all countries except China. Apparently, the White House came out and said that was false, but the market started bouncing on it. But man, we're hoping for a real resolution, right, guys? Because this is, it's painful. And I've been here for multiple bull market cycles. I don't like it. It sucks. But at the end of the day, I go back to the charts and I'm like, all right, regardless of what the story is, regardless of what the catalyst is, when in doubt, zoom out. It's all cyclical. It's all cyclical, and they can't let the collateral go to zero. So whether you're trading stocks, gold, Bitcoin, crypto, whatever. XRP Plumbing, thank you so much for the $9.99 donation, my friend. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Exactly. Play the game. I hope you guys know that a lot of things that politicians say is political theater, and many of them do say certain things to get people to pay attention. It's like to get the attention so they can raise funds and get more power. So you got to be careful. You got to be able to filter through the bullshit. Again, you can vote for the candidate you feel is best. There's policies you should be concerned about. Absolutely. I'm not saying you ignore politics, right? That would be dumb to ignore politics completely, but you got to balance it out. Don't get so caught up. Oh, this guy's going to save me. This politician's the best. He's going to be careful with that. What has history taught us, right? Because life has a way of playing out. It doesn't go perfect for any candidate. They're humans. They're not infallible. So you balance it out with learning the markets to make as much returns as possible to better your life. Because politicians are not coming to save you guys. Amir says Trump knows what he's doing because his family are heavily invested in crypto. The vice president heavily invested. Yeah, look, I think as it relates to crypto, I was saying it the other day. Watch what World Liberty Financial is doing. Watch what Trump Media is doing. They just partnered with crypto.com. So I'm not worried about the future of crypto at all. In fact, I am so bullish. And then when I see Trump's family and his kids making these big bets, they are close to the inside information to the policymakers. So they know what's coming, right? the thing is, many people are very blinded by politics. They get caught up with hating the other side so much that they miss things like that. Don't get caught up with hating the other political party that, because it blinds you. They hate. There's a saying, right? Hate dims the candle of wisdom in your mind, or something like that, right? So you balance it out. You can say, hey, I don't like this, what this party is doing. Right? Objectively, you can say, man, what they're doing is garbage. It sucks. But make sure you're not getting to a point where you're becoming this fanatic and you can't balance it out by saying, I need to also figure out how do I take care of myself, learn the markets and navigate the markets, invest in assets to better my life, because no politician is coming to save you. Appreciate that. Life's a beach, sunsets. Thank you so much. Free and Fighting says, glad I stayed away from meme coins like Trump. Yeah, look, I am bullish on what Trump is doing for crypto, but I've been on record. I am not a fan of this meme coin. I don't think any sitting president or politician should have this. It's just a bad look. It sets a bad precedent. And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. It's just not a good thing. Again, being objective, right? I just said I'm bullish on what Trump is doing with crypto overall. I'm bearish on this meme coin stuff that he's doing. I don't like that. All right, guys, looks like there's no new news coming out here. I think we're just going to have to be in a holding pattern. But like I said, when in doubt, zoom out. On a day when you're feeling fearful, go to tradingview.com. It's free. Guys, it's free. You don't need me to show you this. Go to tradingview.com. Go pull up the charts, S&P 500, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, Tesla if you want, Bitcoin, XRP, whatever. When in doubt, zoom out. Now, the great teacher of history is definitely in the stock market because it's been around longer, obviously. Higher highs, higher lows. Peaks and valleys, crashes along the way. Yes. But what happens? They print their way out of it. And guys, soon enough, we're going to be the hell out of here. We're going to be making new highs. So just understand how the game is played here and use it to your advantage. BTC, XRP, ADA, and HBAR are my largest positions. That's a great portfolio, in my opinion. I have all those in my portfolio, not being biased, just because overall, how we've seen some of these assets move. XRP Fleming says, has anyone bought Trump's gold card yet? Not that I know of. It's fascinating. I like the idea, honestly. I think it's a smart thing to do, to bring like businesses and people to invest in the US. OJM89 says, this feels like the last hurdle, or one of the last. Looking forward to healthier bags end of April than a massive end of year. Yeah, I agree, OJ. That's what I'm thinking as well. Now, as always, you have to be prepared for the things not to go in that direction, that they could be different. But I think when we're talking probabilities, what you're saying has the higher probability of playing out. You know, people often ask the question, is this possible or is this possible? I often say that's the wrong question. The question is, what has the higher probability of playing out? A lot of things are possible. We've seen throughout history, right? Especially in markets, a lot of things are possible. But what's the probability? That's the better question. And I often try to get people to think that way, but sometimes people think too much from a possibility standpoint. And it's both scenarios have a chance of playing out. Which has the higher probability of playing out is the question. Mode Master. Yeah, absolutely, Mode Master. I will be doing these every Monday, with the exception of next week. I'll be going away for spring break with my family. Just get away. I think it's good timing with the markets. But I'll be doing more live streams for sure. I think it's helpful to connect with everybody, answer questions as well. And Yeah, I think it's just a better, well, I shouldn't say better, but it's a different format and it works out well. Oker says, biggest mistake I made was switching my XRP gains into Axelar. That coin had some good backings, but still did worse than meme coins. Yeah, I mean, well, are you talking in context of recent? Because everything is down recently. It just depends when you use your gains. But I think XLR has potential to keep going higher. Don't quote me on that. You know, just different factors, you know, there's different variables, I should say. So just keep that in mind. But this is where you diversify. And sometimes it's good to just take the cash and run and not reinvest it. You know, it just depends what's part of the cycle we're at and your entry point. Thanks, Ipitox. Appreciate that. Thanks, Mode Master. Appreciate that, man. I try to be honest. I try to share the knowledge I've learned from interviewing different hedge fund folks, VCs, and even off the record conversations I've had with some people on Wall Street in talking about trading crypto. And, you know, it's so fascinating when you learn from these people because they're not part of the Main Street crowd that's caught up a lot in politics and narratives. They look at a lot of data, and I try to move in that direction, and it's really helped me. And not, once again, I want to make sure I'm balanced. I'm not saying you ignore politics. I'm not saying you don't vote. I'm not saying you don't care about certain policies. You have to. We have lives to live. We have families, but balance it out. And the Wall Street guys are not like that. They're not the ones like, oh my God, I hate Democrats. Oh my God, I hate No. What is the Fed doing? What is the president saying about, you know, certain policies as it relates to finances? And they use that to make money. So balance it out, right? Thank you, Seconds of Meditation. Appreciate that. Yeah, guys, check out the online course, mycryptocourse.com. Guys, this course covers every aspect of crypto. Best of all, includes expert commentary. You'll hear from founders, CEOs, institutional investors. You get lifetime access, pay a one-time fee, and you can view the full curriculum on here, so you see what's involved. So it touches on everything: airdrops, the crypto market cycles, strategies for crypto trading, you name it. It's all in there. So be sure to check out the new course, guys, and hit the thumbs up button, hit the heart button, hit the like button. Let's see here. Vatican says, Tony, what's your thoughts on rune coins? I don't think I've heard of rune coins, honestly. What is rune? If you can add some more context. Is it this? I honestly don't know anything about it. If it's this, holy shit. It's down pretty bad. Woo, this thing was trading over $500 in 2021, now down to $1. Holy rug pull. That is brutal. It looks really bad, Vatican, to be honest. And once again, I don't know much about it. I'm just looking at the chart. Let's see here. Is it this? I don't know if I'm looking at the right thing, but this may be something different. Because this rune, yeah, I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know which one is which. Brother Crypto says, man, I'm cleaning up, buying what I couldn't months ago. The Fed is going to be forced into lowering rates. I truly believe Trump wants an American money movement narrative. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree. I think Jerome Powell's hands are going to be forced. The political pressures there from Trump, right? The narratives out there. And today they have a closed door meeting, the Fed that is. We could hear, I think Jerome's going to have to cut. Like, I mean, the markets are in free fall, especially the stock market. Not so much crypto per se, but certainly the stock market. And I think they're going to have to do some sort of economic stimulus. I don't know if they're going to call it stimulus. I don't know if they're going to call it quantitative easing, but we saw Jerome Powell at the last FOMC hearing. He said they're ramping down QT. They dropped it by 80%. And what comes next? QE. It's the natural progression. First, they pause rate hikes, then they cut rates, then they ramp down QT, and now we're at the cusp of QE. It's the same thing over and over and over. XLR is down 80% since last year and 97%. Oof, tough. This is why you diversify, guys, because you never know, right? What could happen? Rune Thorchain. Okay, Rune Thorchain. Okay. Okay, so that was the wrong rune I was looking at. Okay. Okay, not as bad. The other rune was trading at like $500 and it went down to $1. I mean, that's brutal. So, okay, so this is the right chart. So this chart looks good, honestly, because let's see here. In 2023, it started rallying off the bear market bottom. That's a good sign, showing strength. Cooled off, of course, then went back up in 2024 Q4, but didn't show as much strength in the last rally. That doesn't mean, though, it can't go back up, but it went back down to the bear market bottom. So it needs maybe some strong, whoops, why is my, it needs some strong, oops, wait, why is this doing that? Okay. Yeah, so you can see here, it's back to the bear market bottom, man. So it's got to, in the next rally, it's got to show a lot of strength to get back anywhere near the old all-time high and then enter into price discovery. So not looking too great right now, but there was some signs of strength over the past 2 years. So this is where, you know, you diversify, guys, because you just don't know how things are going to play out here. So a great chart, not being biased, just XRP, despite being down with everything else, right? Still holding strong. It's not back down to its bear market bottom. ETH, damn, ETH is taking a beating. My God. It is not far from its bear market bottom, guys. That is brutal, man. Hopefully it can get out of here. That is brutal. ETH is just taking a beating. ADA also not far from its bear market bottom. So we need something to come give us some life. Solana still holding up pretty decent here. You know, it was an early mover in the start of the bull market in 2023. So it is down significantly. Don't get me wrong. It had entered price discovery a little bit, but then huge dump. But a lot of these coins, man, they need something to get them back up. Even VeChain, I'm a holder of VeChain, but almost going to retest that bear market bottom. This is a weird cycle with these tariffs, man. HBAR, I'm a holder of HBAR. You guys can see not far from that bear market bottom. Now, it showed some really nice strength in 2024. I mean, look at that, right? Not far from the all-time high, but almost like it's taking all of it back, which really sucks. So we need something from this market to show us some life. And Bitcoin is the measuring stick, as always. I was telling you guys about the Bitcoin dominance earlier. So no major drop off, showing an indication here that this thing still, the bull market is still alive. But as I said earlier, we're knocking at the bear market door. We have not entered, but we're knocking at that door. So something has to come out here. Come on, Jerome Powell. Come on, we need the help. We need help, Jerome. We need the money printer, man. Render and near. So I hold Render in my portfolio. Let's take a look at Render. I think I do. I have a bookmark. No, I don't. Okay. I don't hold near, but I know it has a lot of VC backing, so it should do well. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, render. Oh, wait, I'm on the 1 week chart. Let me go to 1 day. So render is taking a beating, massive beating. And look, I hold the coin, so no bias, guys. No bias. Massive beating. All the gains. Unless this chart is not... How old? Let's see if you can do... Does Binance have more of a... Yeah, even on the Binance chart, taking a beating for sure. Obviously, AI, I believe, has a strong narrative, but when you have macro uncertainty with tariffs and much more, you know, it's going to be tough for these coins to break out. But guys, I don't want to sound like a doomer or gloomer, because I do believe there's a higher probability of this bull market continuing, but we're knocking at the bear market door. But these coins are going to suffer, especially altcoins are going to suffer, because they're going to bleed out. And as Bitcoin is correcting, even though Bitcoin's not going to have as big of a dip as these altcoins, it's just the nature of the market. But near also taking back a lot of the profits here. So well, ideally what we want to see, some sort of macro stimulus, rate cuts, and then the market start ripping and these altcoins start following Bitcoin, right? And at least can get to new highs. But it's tough out there, right? This is why I mentioned earlier, 1, do not look at your portfolio during these times. 2, do not watch mainstream news, because they're going to bombard you with fear, right? 3, go out and touch grass. 4, make sure you get a good workout in at the gym. I plan to go to the gym today and work the hell out. And I have not looked at my portfolio, guys, at all. Because there's no point. There's no point right now. I'm trying to maintain my mental health. Let's see if there's anything new. And, you know, as far as tariff stuff here. Doesn't look like there's anything new, really. Trying to refresh X here. Guys, hit the thumbs up, hit the heart button, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't as yet. Be sure to check out our sponsors, Uphold, Trezor, Proppy, VeChain. Also, subscribe to our free email newsletter on Substack, 100% free, link in the description. Check out my book on Amazon and my new course at mycryptocourse.com. So yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything new, guys, going on. So we're really going to have to be patient here. And hopefully we hear from Jerome Powell and the Fed soon. Maybe get some rate cuts. Markets start to normalize. And yeah, we'll go from there. All right, guys, going to wrap up soon. Approaching an hour of streaming. And like I said, major takeaways for me. We need Bitcoin to get the hell back above the 200-day moving average. This green line that you see here, guys. Now, just because it's below there doesn't mean it's a bear market. We saw this last summer. It came out and we had an epic Q4, right? So just make sure you put everything in context. We need the same for the stock market, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, because all of this stuff is correlated to global liquidity. There's sometimes a rotation of liquidity. Even gold is down, even though it's not as down as the stock market and Bitcoin. So patience here. Hopefully this tariff stuff wraps up in another few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and we hear from Jerome Powell. Those are the things we want to pay attention to. And the market's really bothering you, step away from it, guys. Step away from it. And remember, if you take away one thing from this live stream, when in doubt, zoom out. Higher highs, higher lows. It's cyclical, right? If you're panic selling and you're having some sort of emotional breakdown about the markets, you're doing it wrong. Maybe you're over leveraged. Maybe you put too much money in the market. You don't put more than you can afford to lose, and make sure you have the perspective of what's happening here. 2000, 1987, 2008, March 2020, whatever the catalyst is, it recovers because they have to keep printing money. Let that be your foundation in navigating markets overall. All right, guys, thank you. Wishing you all the best of luck in this market, that you make some incredible returns. Patience is the key, emotional control as well. So I will talk to you all later.